let's do a bit of tech talk with Matt Dickerson. He's on the line. How are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, good, thanks, Sarah. Good to be chatting to you again.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. How are you doing today, Matt?
Yeah, good. So you're running solo at the moment, making Dan
running solo.
Making Dan feel like he's redundant.
Yeah, I know. Well, he'll be back next week, don't worry. Now, Squid Game, it's said to be the biggest show on Netflix. Have you watched it?
I have actually watched a bit of it, and I didn't actually like it that much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't really get into it that much. A couple of my kids are watching it, and they loved it. They've finished it in about 2 days, I think.
As did I. But I did read an article about an internet provider in South Korea suing Netflix. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's all about Squid Game. SK Broadband over in South Korea is complaining to Netflix and to everyone else that'll listen that companies like Netflix are generating so much internet traffic that it makes it hard for them to keep up with the infrastructure, so they want someone else to pay for it. Now, Netflix, as you can imagine, say, hold on a second, you're the internet service provider, we're providing the content, you're getting paid by your customers, so if people are using your service, that's good. We're just providing content that people can look at and browse and stream, so it shouldn't be up to us to pay you. Now, the courts in South Korea, as you can imagine, are probably going to side with SK Broadband being a local company there, and they have at this stage said, no, Netflix, we really want you to pay. And there is some precedent there. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, they all pay internet service providers in South Korea because people are consuming their content. YouTube doesn't pay, Netflix doesn't pay, so they're trying to get them to pay. Now, the logic of this is that they say that since the middle of May 2018 till now, so about 3 years, internet traffic has gone up by 24 times on SK Broadband, and they're saying that 24 times is all Netflix traffic. So it's all Netflix's fault, so we want them to pay for it. And you're right, Squid Game is going off across the world. It's the number one viewed program on Netflix in 90 countries at the moment. So it will be the biggest show ever from Netflix until the next biggest show ever comes along.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the last 2 years Netflix has gone absolutely nuts. But do they have a leg to stand on here? Could they actually win a lawsuit?
Well, they have actually gotten the first round, but in any lawsuits these days it seems to go first round, second round, third round, appeals, all the rest of it. So at this stage, the Seoul Central District Court has actually ruled against Netflix, and they've said you've got to go and pay. Now, Netflix are appealing, of course, so they're not going to pay any money yet. But because there is that precedent there where other companies like Amazon and Apple and Facebook, because they're paying some internet service providers in South Korea, then they have got some precedents there, and that can be pretty dangerous for companies like Netflix. I think those other companies said, well, we are generating lots of traffic there. It's probably easier than going through the court process. We'll just pay them some money and be done with it. But they're talking about significant sums of money if, based on the calculations that SK have put forward, based on those alone, Netflix would have to pay $31 million US just for the traffic they generated in 2020 based on a formula that SK came up with. Now, the formula may change, but yeah, I think you will see some amount of money being paid there at some point in time.
Yeah, I'm sure they could probably afford it. Now, on to the world's longest subsea power cable. What is a subsea power cable?
This is power cable run under the ocean. Now, you've got lots of different interconnectors around the world to be able to basically balance out power grids. In Great Britain, they're still getting a lot of their power. About 47% of their power is coming from burning coal, from fossil fuels. And they want to change that. They want to have more power coming from renewable power. It takes time to get all that up. They're trying to get more wind turbines running, but it takes time. So in the meantime, they've got these interconnectors. Now, they've got a total of 6 interconnectors now to other European nations, across to France, for example, Belgium. But this one here is the longest undersea cable in the world. 724 kilometres of cable, 2 cables actually, 2 parallel cables have been dropped along the bottom of the North Sea to connect Norway across to Great Britain. Now, Norway's got lots of hydropower, lots of water flowing in Norway. That's wonderful. That's producing lots of green power. So Great Britain will be buying that. And it's actually good for people in Great Britain because that's cheaper than the power they're buying from burning coal. The hope from Great Britain is, though, by the year 2025, they want to get to the point where they can produce enough power with renewables that they'll be able to start selling some power back in the other direction of those interconnectors to some of those other European nations. Now, this is good news for us here. we have, Sarah, in Australia, a whole bunch of land in the middle of the country doing not a lot. The Simpson Desert, I think it's about 176,000 square kilometres out there. So we've got a bunch of land out there, and we've got some countries above us that are probably in need of some renewable power. So Indonesia, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Singapore, even as far as China, if you want to go that far, all of those countries are still using a lot of fossil fuels, maybe 80% or above in terms of their mix of power they use. So if we've got this cable over in Great Britain across to Norway that's successful and it's running already, they've connected to it already, then we could start to provide possibly some solar power, maybe even some wind power, and actually sell that to some of those countries above us with some undersea cables. And some of those countries I've mentioned there, they're not 724 kilometres away, they're closer than that. So I think this could be really good for our nation.
Oh, right. That could be really awesome. It's quite an expensive project, though. The one in Europe cost €2 billion.
Yeah, you're right. It is a couple of dollars involved. And I've actually watched some videos. I've been keeping an eye on this as it's been going the last couple of years. It's a fascinating process to see what they've got to go through. So you're right, €2 billion, just laying that cable along the bottom of the ocean. I mean, that seems fairly complicated, but even just then getting it up out of the ocean at each end and getting it through into connectors and all the rest of it, it's 1,400 megawatt capacity in that cable. So it can power 1.4 million homes. The two cables are 15 centimetres in diameter each, so again, they're fairly chunky cables. So a lot of work, a lot of expense, but obviously they've decided it's worth it because this isn't the first one they've done. This is the sixth one they've done so far, but this is the longest.
Yeah, right. Well, probably worth it then.
Yeah.
And on to what we could power with that energy, robots in your house. This could be closer than we'd ever thought.
It could be. Now, you're probably a bit too young to remember Rosie the robot. She was on the Jetsons cartoon, and Rosie did all sorts of wonderful things. And so some people are saying, are we getting to the stage now that we're going to have something like Rosie the robot? Now, this new robot from Amazon is called Astro, the household robot. Some people are saying it's really just putting Alexa on wheels, and it's probably not much more than that at this stage. You can't order it in Australia yet. You can order it in the US, about $1,000 US, and it can go around the house and follow you around and take commands from you and do the things that Alexa can do. It can turn lights on or off. It can take control of things, change channels on TV, all sorts of things. About the only extra useful things this robot can do is it can take a beer from someone that hands it a beer and take it into the lounge room. Can't get it out of the fridge at this stage, so it's got to have someone hand it to it somewhere else. And it can do some checks on things at home while you're not there. So if you walk out the door in the morning and you're at work and you're sitting there on the radio station, Sarah, and you go, oh, did I lock the front door this morning? I just can't remember. So you just contact Astro the robot and say, go down to the front door and have a look at the front door. And it's got a little periscope that can pop up to the height of about 1.2 metres and actually inspect things. So it could pop up and look at the lock to see that the lock's around the right way. It could pop up and see whether you've, turned the iron off or made sure you turned the stove off before you went to work. So there's a few little things you can do like that. But at this stage, it's probably just an experimental thing. Hey, do people want these robots? Is it something useful we could do with this robot? Can it do more than just take a few commands? But I love the idea. If we could order it in Australia, I'd get one, Sarah, if for no other reason than I could put a drink on it and just send it into my wife in the lounge room while she's watching Squid Game.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Just for the beer and for someone with high anxiety who leaves the house and wonders every single time if they've locked the door,
That's right.
This could be a godsend. So we'll keep an eye out for that. US $999.99.
At this stage, that's right, yeah. But I'm not sure. It'll depend how well it goes in the US. If they go well there, I think they'll say, well, we can start to expand that to other countries. The same thing happened with Alexa, with all the various devices that Alexa is on, the Echo and the Echo Show. They started in America, and the ones that were successful then started to be sold in other parts around the world. I remember getting my brother in America send me an Amazon device. The only problem I had with it was it wouldn't recognise Dubbo as a location, so I kept getting the weather from Boston, where my brother lived, rather than getting the weather in Dubbo.
Well, that could be really, really cool. I hope it comes to us soon. Thanks for your time this morning.
My
Matt
pleasure.
Dickerson for our Tech Talk.
Thanks, Sarah.